A new ad simplifies down the 2024 election between extreme MAGA Republicans and Democrats to what it's really about. It's not about liberal or conservative, left or right. It's about normal versus crazy. The MeidasTouch network released a fantastic attack ad of sorts, a video that perfectly puts into perspective what voters will be voting on in 2024. And I think this message is super important. Something we've been talking a lot about is how so many people don't seem to understand the stakes of the upcoming election. Too many are treating the election cycle as somewhat normal and another battle between conservatives and liberals, and that's just not what this is. And of course, we never want to downplay the importance of our long-standing differences. Those policy battles matter. But we can have those policy battles and still have a functioning, healthy democracy. What will get in the way of the stability of a democracy is the increased power of extreme MAGA Republicans. And so it's super important to point out, this really isn't about voting on right or left. It's voting on crazy or normal. And that's something we've been pointing out a lot recently. Now, this video focuses more on the public embarrassments that are all too common among MAGA Republicans, the chaos, the nonsense, and less so on the threat to democracy that I just mentioned. But take a look.
The truth is, it's not even a question anymore between right and left. It is normal versus crazy.
Do it, baby. I love you so much. Magic. And it's bad news. Bad things are happening.
Normal versus crazy.
I would like the member to be instructed to not introduce any pornography today.
Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, she and her companion explicitly groping each other repeatedly while they were in their seats.
Normal versus crazy.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it. You know, you're a United States Senator.
What happened with you and Kevin McCarthy?
I got elbowed in the back, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was a clean shot to the kidneys.
Ultra mega! It's normal versus crazy.
There is substantial evidence that Santos violated federal law.
Well, I posted them on my Twitter account.
You look like a Smurf.
It is normal versus crazy.
I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing that I can go campaign on and say we did.
Deranged. He's not into golden showers, as they say they call them.
So as I said, they kept it focused more on the recent instances of just MAGA lunacy and less so on the specifics of Trump's attempts to block the peaceful transfer of power and other more consequential acts by MAGA Republicans. But I think there's a point in doing that as well. We have to talk about the most important things. As I said, Trump trying to overthrow American democracy in 2020 and 2021 and his intentions for a second term. But also, Americans are getting tired of the chaos, of the inability to effectively govern, of the lack of serious policy solutions, and of the constant Beetlejuice-like embarrassments. And so reminding America that with one party, you at least get adults in the room, whereas the other, you very often don't. I think that's pretty impactful. And if we want to get back to more serious and meaningful conversations and debates about policies that do matter, we want to be having those debates, we first have to defeat MAGA Republicans as many times as possible until they become politically irrelevant. So I think it's a compelling message to say, hey, let's set aside for a second our normal debates about specific policies and acknowledge that first, we want to defeat the crazies. Now, I have a lot to go through in this segment, starting with another example of what we mean. This is ridiculous. When we plead, please, can we get rid of the crazies? Let's quickly talk about Georgia GOP District Chair Candace Taylor. Before playing a clip of her that's rather bonkers, here's some reporting from Rolling Stone. Candace Taylor, a recently elected GOP District Chair in Georgia, she was elected to public office, would like to know why Big Globe would like to know, let me just state that again, why Big Globe, meaning like Earth globe, won't stop shoving round Earth propaganda down our throats. In an interview with David Weiss, aka Flat Earth Dave, and Matt Long on her Jesus, Guns, and Babies podcast, this is not a parody paper that I'm reading from. Taylor and her guests disclosed biblical evidence that the Earth is actually flat as a pancake. The people that defend the globe don't know, this is her quote, or somebody's quote, the people that defend the globe don't know anything about the globe, said Weiss. If they knew a tenth of what Matt and I know about the globe, they would be flat earthers. By the way, Candace Taylor ran for governor in Georgia. Ugh. So with that being said, here she is calling out the pro-globe, big globe propaganda.
I said that it was globes everywhere, there's propaganda, but it's the truth. And you know how many people who don't believe in flat earth, they believe that we're, in a solar system. They reach out to me, they're like, Candace, you know what? You're right. I have been looking in stores and there are globes everywhere. Like there are globe toys and there's globes in the decorations. And you said that on your show and people thought you were crazy, but it's true. Why are they pushing the globes? And I said, well, I think it's because of NASA wanting to spend billions of dollars a month, but they try to say that I'm crazy because I said that. And they still go on my social media and my comments and they say, are you seeing globes everywhere, Candace? Are you seeing globes? I'm like, yeah, I am.
So good, but what am I supposed to say that? Yeah, there's lots of globes around because often we're referencing the Earth. It's a globe. Let me just, I don't know, process what we just watched. 10%, by the way, of Americans believe that, according to a poll we looked at from CNN. I guess I'll just leave it there. What analysis am I supposed to add? If you're seeing globes everywhere, no need to be concerned. It's not a propaganda effort. It's just because the Earth is a common thing that we talk about and look at and stuff. Now we can laugh at the crazies all we'd like. But let's just get back to the most consequential part of this discussion before I lose my marbles observing that. I think normal versus crazy is a good way to frame the election. But also, as Adam Kinzinger and many others have been saying, democracy versus authoritarianism. You are voting on whether or not you believe in a functioning, healthy democracy and the rule of law or not. You can't vote for the guy, Trump, who attempted to prevent the peaceful transfer of power, just install himself the president, and also believe in democracy at the same time. Those two things don't go together. That's not how democracy works. And I've had people who watch my show say, it's really helpful when you say that phrase, block the peaceful transfer of power, to specify what you're talking about, because it's easy to forget. A lot of people aren't aware of what we're referring to when we say that. Obviously, I don't have the time every single segment to go through every detail of this vast scheme, see the indictments for that. But as some examples, he got non-electors who weren't selected by the states to sign forms saying they were the lawful electors, to try to assert Trump to have won states he lost and just disenfranchise millions of voters and overturn their will because Trump didn't want to admit that he lost and wanted to stay in power. He was calling and trying to strong-arm local election officials to engage in fraudulent activities and find votes that didn't exist and proclaim him to be the victor of states that he lost. He put together a plan to block the certification of Biden's election and impede a governmental proceeding using his vice president. And again, there's much more. I do think it's important to go through some of those examples every time we mention Trump trying to block the peaceful transfer of power, because I've talked to so many people. The fake elector scheme, haven't ever heard of it. This massively important moment in American history, never heard of it. And then, as if all of that isn't bad enough, I went through in a different video today, once again, a summary of his intentions for a second term and the authoritarian nature of those. With that being said, here is a former conservative judge, Michael Ludwig, breaking down some of this.
In recent weeks, the former president has virulently escalated his contemptuous rhetorical attacks on the institutions of law and democracy in our country. The purpose and the intent of these attacks is to delegitimize these institutions in the eyes of the American people. In anticipation of his campaign for the presidency as the Republican nominee, but also to serve his own purposes as he faces criminal trials in multiple jurisdictions. The former president, unfortunately, has largely succeeded in doing exactly that over the past few years. He's delegitimized, in the eyes of the American people, the institutions of law and democracy. Millions of Americans today no longer believe in their democracy, their elections, and their institutions of democracy and law. Today, we see the former president is viciously attacking the federal courts and even the individual judges who will preside over his cases in an effort to delegitimize the federal courts and the state courts and the judges who hold office in the judiciaries. The prohibitively high cost to the nation at this point, though, is that over the past 3 years, if not longer, the former president has normalized his behavior and his delegitimizing and dehumanizing rhetoric into our political culture, where it will stay forever.
Because Trump doesn't want to admit that he lost to Biden in 2020, he's convinced 70% was the last poll that we looked at, 70% of the Republican Party, that our elections don't work. And also, as Michael Ledig pointed out, because he doesn't want to be held accountable for his potential violations of the law, he's attempting to delegitimize our justice system, or the perception of it, among his followers. Not to mention, he's attempting to dehumanize anyone who's opposed to him so that their attacks don't hurt him in the eyes of his followers. Even if he loses in 2024, I don't think most people understand the remaining damage that has been done. So many people won't believe in our election system, justice system, and in the humanity of their fellow Americans. And I know some of you may think sometimes, why does Luke keep talking about this same subject? A couple of reasons. The first is, it seems a lot of people, both anecdotally in my life and also just based on polling on different issues, the election, people don't grasp the importance of this election. So because new people come across my videos every day, this might be your first, I want to bring this up as often as possible. And the second is, the threat to democracy and the threat of authoritarianism is a threat like we haven't seen in a really long time in America. And don't just take it from me. We previously talked about how the publication The Economist releases a predictive guide each year about the year that's to come. And they analyze the potential effect of a second Trump term, him promising to lock up his critics, his undermining of the rule of law and our democracy, and so many other things, and predicted the effect that a destabilized America would have on the rest of the world. And because of those things, deemed Trump to be the greatest threat to the world in 2024 is what The Economist predicts. That's shocking. They've been putting together this predictive guide for decades, and this year they have to say about a second Trump term that's the magnitude of his threat, because of how destabilizing the United States would destabilize the world. Pretty terrifying. It's as real as it gets. So yes, we got to come back to it a lot, and I'll keep pounding that drum until he loses in 2024. One other clip I want to look at, I actually came across a moment from Rachel Maddow. It's a TikTok clip talking about the authoritarian intentions of the undermining of these basic truths, the election being the most prominent, but also about his legal troubles or more trivial things like a flashback, the crowd size of his inauguration, or the tens of thousands of other documented lies that he's told, and the intention behind saying that anyone who reports negative things about him is fake news and the enemy of the people, and then the undermining of expertise. And all of these different actions and all of this rhetoric by him, it's a part of a broader goal that serves authoritarian interests. Take a look at this from MSNBC host Rachel Maddow.
That message is the same. It's to turn us against each other, to make us believe that democracy doesn't work, that there's no knowable truth, right? So
yes, this is really important.
Really important, and I can tell right now that this sounds woo-woo, but it's not woo-woo. It's very specific. One of the things they do is they tell you, don't believe journalism, don't believe science, don't believe experts, don't believe history. It's all fake. It's all designed to bamboozle you. None of these so-called sources of expertise are real. The only knowable truth is something that you feel in your gut, and let me tell you what to feel in your gut. Separating us from the idea of knowable truth means we don't recognize real practical problems in the world. We don't recognize real practical solutions to those problems, which we should put our government to. And it means that you're very susceptible to both conspiracy theories and you're susceptible to suggestion from the leader who wants you to do things that you probably would not do on your own steam if you had your wits about you. And that dislocation from the truth, don't trust the media, don't trust science, don't trust experts, don't trust any political opposition, don't trust journalism. That is part of the authoritarian project, and it always has been.
And it's absolutely true. Once enough people believe you're the only source of truth, then your ability to enact authoritarian goals is strengthened. And that's where we're getting. As she listed off, there are so many people who believe every prosecutor, every judge, every scientist who disagrees with Trump, every grand jury juror who approved indictments, every expert, every fact checker, every journalist, all of them, they're just in on an effort to dishonestly oppose Trump and take him down. And maybe they're part of the deep state. And Trump's the one person who's correct on everything. And that can lead to some scary places. I'll end that video there. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, even if you feel like you're always getting my videos. And so you must be subscribed. You might not be, and you may just watch the videos so YouTube suggests them to you. So make sure you're subscribed. It really helps the show. And I will note, the channel is growing so rapidly. It's pretty stunning. So I appreciate each and every one of you for that. Plus follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, X at Luke P. Beasley, and sign up for the Beasley Brief at lukebeasleyshow.com/brief. That's a daily morning newsletter, and become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership if you really want to support the show. That's where you get access to the daily bonus show Monday through Friday, and I'll talk to you all next time.